Back on HQ, all it takes is one team, one executive, someone to believe in your talents. These are a few names that are waiting for that vote of confidence, but won't have to wait long. Best available according to our friends at CBSSports.com. Back in studio, Joe Musso alongside Ryan Wilson, Rick Spielman here to bring us all the latest in terms of those names that remain. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Ryan, I'm going to come to you first here. Best available offensive talent in your eyes is who?
I'm going to go with Troy Franklin, the wide receiver out of Oregon, Rick. Over 6 feet tall, almost 6'2", 176 the issue. Ran a 4.41, which is enticing, but I know one of the issues you had with him, you thought he was a little stiff coming out of his breaks. I thought he was one of the biggest shows in town for Bo Nix in that Oregon offense, but being undersized, there's a difference between getting off the line of scrimmage in the Pac-12 and then having to do it in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm okay with his length. He just needs to get stronger, and I think he's more of a weaver into and out of his cuts. He can be a little bit more crisp, but he can go up and get the ball. So I'm really surprised he's still sitting here heading into day 3.
Maybe hear a name called early offensive available. Who piques your interest?
Well, it's got to be a running back. So I'm going to go with Jalen Wright from Tennessee. He led the FBS in most 10-yard runs this season. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's healthy. He doesn't have a lot of tread on his tires, like we like to say, for a running back. So I think someone's going to get a steal, and he's going to be a major contributor wherever he ends up.
Why is he still on the board?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. There we go. I mean, there were.
Why is Troy Franklin still on the board? Do you have the answers?
Well, Jalen Wright ran in the 4.3s. He hasn't had a lot of mileage on the odometer, as you point out. There are injury histories with the other running backs, so I was just curious why he might be out here, unless there's something we don't know, and the other running backs have gone off the board.
Seems like all the Wilsons except Ryan have been drafted, as we've pointed out already. So, I mean, I guess that's specific.
Rights are up next.
Specific to no one.
Alphabetically.
Let's get specific on the defensive side of the ball here, Ryan. Who do you love?
Jaden Hicks, the safety out of Washington State. And this is a guy I've gone back and forth on. And Rick, maybe I succumbed to peer pressure from my buddy Pete Prisco. I went back and watched him, and I liked him better than I thought originally. I thought he was better closer to the line of scrimmage, but I talked to some folks in the league that thought he could play in space as well. Clearly, not everyone agreed with that because he's still on the board. But this is about the range, perhaps, that he should have gone. I always come back, Joe, to Talanoa Hufanga, who was a 5th-round pick. Probably should have gotten drafted higher. He didn't test as well in terms of the measurables. Hicks ran in the 4.4s, maybe didn't play quite that fast, but perhaps the issues some team thought with him, at least, is that he wasn't as good in space as he was closer to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and I think the way the NFL has evolved into a space game, maybe some of his athletic limitations do show up. I don't think he's a middle of the safety field guy that has range from sideline to sideline. He's going to play in a half safety or the closer to the line of scrimmage he is. But the one thing I can guarantee you, he's probably going to be a demon on special teams.
Yep.
Best available on that side of the ball in your eyes, Rick?
I have to go with T.J. Tampa. I thought he was sure going to get drafted here. I think he's a physical corner. He's long. He's athletic enough. He does look a little stiff into and out of his transition, but boy, does he have great ball skills. He gets his hands on a lot of interceptions and PBUs. He's physical and run support, so I think a team that runs zone coverage, he'd be an excellent pick.
You know, I don't know if you guys know, I keep an all-name squad. TJ Tampa being considered for the second-team all-name squad right now. That's good stuff right there. Not sure if it's an alias or a real name, but he's likely to hear it called in short order on day 3. Let's just go to favorites right now. Someone that really jumped off the board in your preparation that remains out there. Doesn't have to be your best, you're this, you're that, but someone that really caught your eye that still hasn't heard their name.
He didn't get a chance to start the season because of some silly and stipulate violations. That's another conversation, and I'll put that on him. But Tez Walker, transferred into UNC. Long 4.3 speed, showed up on tape, Rick. We saw him at his pro day along with Drake May. Hands were an issue. He had one of the toughest Senior Bowls I can remember. He didn't catch much of anything that week. I thought he bounced back at his pro day, looked a little smoother with his hands, but I think that's a concern, and the stiffness we've talked about in the podcast, that he's not as fluid in his movements as some other guys that are this size. But the speed you can't discount, and this feels like 4th round might be the range where we see him come.
Yeah, this is where a team will take a shot at him just because of the vertical speed that he has, and he can get on top of coverage. Now, he caught the ball well down the field when Drake May was throwing it to him in the pro day, so he's just going to have to be more consistent catching the ball. But this is a big, I think, athletic receiver with great speed.
Yeah.
All right, that's your guy. In terms of your favorite, someone that maybe was earmarked in your book and maybe not someone else's? Who do you like still?
Yeah, Brandon Dorlus. This is the defensive lineman at Oregon. I think he's very athletic. He can play base end. I think he's going to slide inside and help someone as an inside nickel rusher. Showed up, I think, at the East-West game where he played both positions. I think he is undervalued for his athleticism. He is a project. He needs to play hard, down in and down out. But when he goes, he's a going Jesse. So I think someone's going to take a shot on him. A coach is going to want to get his hands on this athleticism, develop him. I think he can be an inline pass rusher at the next level.
Plenty of opportunity does still await and plenty of draft capital belonging to certain teams. Before we get to the biggest opportunity in your eyes, I just want you to take us through maybe some of your experience in draft rooms, Rick. When you get to day 3, does strategy change at all? Do you get a little bit more free-wielding, best available? How does the approach differ?
Yeah, no, I think you're still trying to fill need if you can, or if there's someone that was on up there and still sitting there, you may try to get more aggressive to go get that player. We relied on analytics a lot. My philosophy was, whether you agreed with it or not, and you know, the joke was that, hey, I would trade my mother for a 7th round pick just to have another pick in the draft. I always thought the more opportunities you have to draft guys down there, you don't have to fight for them in free agency. Let's see how many guys can come in and maybe help your ball club. If you can hit maybe 15 to 20% of all those picks that end up being special teams players, or you find an Adam Thielen or a C.J. Ham, Josh Metellus, Javon Curse, Stephon Diggs, we were
dudes.
Yeah, but the thing
Puka
is,
most recently.
Yeah, I give a lot of credit to the scouts because that's their day. We call it the working man's day, and no one wears a tie. Ryan's going to have his tie off tomorrow.
The working man's day. Okay, well, I've been
and that's where the scouts get an opportunity to shine.
All right. I've been informed as well. I will come tieless tomorrow. We will follow all rules. But opportunity, we talked about it, Ryan. Where do you see the biggest opportunity, draft capital, taking into consideration?
Let me see what the Raiders have left on day 2 here, Rick. They have 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and 2 7ths. Wow. There's some math to be done. Maybe they move up, maybe they stay put. But I think if you're looking for a quarterback, and Rick, you can tell me, they have Aiden O'Connell, last year's day 3 pick, and Gardner Minshew, as we like to call him, the stopgap, the bridge quarterback, whatever. Do you consider Spencer Rattler here, or do you address other needs? Because they got the tight end to go along with their other tight end, Michael Mayer, from a year ago with Brock Bowers, and they don't have a quarterback. You can't compete in that division without a quarterback, it feels like.
I hope they take Spencer Rattler so I don't have to hear his name the rest of this draft because we've been talking about him for 6 months. Yeah. Months and months.
Who's got the biggest lever to pull tomorrow in your eyes?
Yeah, mine is the Green Bay Packers because they have 8 draft picks. And if you look at Brian Gutekunst and that staff, they've done an outstanding job finding a lot of talent in those later rounds. Wicks, the receiver from Virginia last year, was a 5th round pick. Carl Brooks, the kid out of Bowling Green who was an end that they moved inside, is going to help as inside rusher. And even if you go back to 2022 and Rasheed Walker, who was a 7th round pick, is their starting left tackle right now. So I think he does and their staff do a great job identifying guys that have some skill, that have some ability to develop, and their coaches take it over from there.
These are the guys on the day that can make executives look very smart. You find that sort of value on day 3. Rick and Ryan, fantastic work as always, fellas. Thank you. All right, here's a look at where it will begin on day 3. Quite apropos, 100 picks already in the can. We will start 101 with the team that was supposed to be drafting 1. But instead, they move for a 1, and now maybe Chicago has their 1. I digress. 101 Panthers, 102 Seahawks, the Pats on the clock at 103.